Hello, everyone. My name is Vince Gauman, and I am really excited to speak to you a little bit about the Sirian star system and the upcoming ceremony I have, which is this Tuesday, May 24th at 1 p.m. Pacific time, in which I'm going to be transmitting the very old, very sacred elder-like rays of Sirius to people from around the world in this Zoom ceremony to support their healing and empowerment and ascension journey. And Sirius is, lots of star seeds talk about Sirius. They talk about being Sirian star seeds. There's also people talk about the Pleiades. They talk about being Arcturians. So there's a few stars or star systems which people, awakened people, light workers, star seeds really relate to, and Sirius is one of them. The Sirius star system. Some of you may know that I have been working with starlight for a while now. If you look at my feature video, you'll see the backstory of how I came to the idea, if you want to say it that way. It's not a very good way of saying it, but how I was inspired to begin to heal people around the world using starlight. And it came to me in an ayahuasca ceremony, in a plant medicine ceremony with shamans. And I was guided by spirit on how to start healing people with starlight, and it was a really miraculous thing for me to begin to experience this, to be able to transmit these light rays to people and from all over the world. And sometimes people were able to receive the healings when they didn't know it. I used to do a particular type of group healing for groups of 8, where 8 people would sign up and they would send me their intentions, and they would receive the healing transmissions when they didn't know it. So these people, and they would never meet each other. They could be sleeping or walking or shopping or traveling, and they would have the healing, and they had these incredibly miraculous healings where all this chronic pain went away. They felt much more energized, much more clear. I do my ceremonies different now, and I might touch into that in a bit. But so I was really blown away by the power of starlight, which is why I quit my counseling, my somatic therapy practice. I quit my breathwork practice. I quit this other kind of work I was doing in regards to supporting people to heal. I quit everything just to do this work with starlight, and then starlight morphed into healing people with different ascended masters, such as Mother Mary and Mary Magdalene, which is coming up tomorrow, and also with spirit animals, and I work with diamond light, and it's really expanding and growing for me. I'm really excited, and I've never actually worked with a particular star before. I've never called upon a particular star. I've never invoked Sirius or any Arcturus, any particular star. Whenever I would do my healing with starlight sessions, I always just invoked starlight, but I never invoked a particular star. And just to remind you that starlight is Christ consciousness. Starlight is Buddha consciousness, however you want to call it. It's source light. So you have all these stars in the cosmos, and what they're doing is they're broadcasting beams of Christ consciousness, and each star broadcasts its own unique codes, its own unique crystalline codes. And so they all have their own unique consciousness, just like human souls have their own unique consciousness. But we also have to remember the paradox, which is that while all souls and all stars are unique, uniquely designed, uniquely coded, we're also all holographic mirrors of the one source. I just think that's the greatest paradox of all, is that we are We are divine mirrors. We are perfect reflections of God, made in her image and likeness. And yet we're all designed differently. We all have our own unique, you could call this our own uniquely designed or sequenced spiritual DNA, which is the holy qualities, the holy divine qualities within our soul. It's all sequenced differently, coded differently. So we're different, we're unique, and yet we're the same in many ways. So it's a fantastic paradox. So stars are the same. Stars have their own unique codes, their own unique crystalline codes. They have their unique personality, you could say. And yet there is also plenty of crossover as well. So there's plenty of crossover between the crystalline ascension codes being broadcast from Sirius and the crystalline ascension codes being broadcast from the Pleiades. So there's uniqueness and there's similarity. So in this sacred ceremony, this Tuesday, the 24th, 1 p.m. Pacific, it's on Zoom, and you can receive the transmission, just so you know, whether you're on Zoom or not. It makes no difference. So if you're working or something and you cannot attend, you can still receive the transmission. You will not have any less of a transmission. And I'm going to put all that in the description, that information. So yeah, so what's going to happen is this Tuesday, I'm going to be broadcasting a live transmission of the Sirius star system. It's ancient frequencies. So what that means is that, and this is true with whatever it is I'm transmitting, whether it's diamond light or whales, the Great Spirit of the Whale. I just did a ceremony with the Great Spirit of the Whale called Ancient Whale Songs. Or whether I'm transmitting Mother Mary or Mary Magdalene or Kuan Yin. Whatever it is I'm broadcasting, you are merging with that consciousness. You are merging with that consciousness. And in merging with that consciousness, there's what's called a resonant mirroring. And you begin, it's like you walk in there, that field of consciousness. You take a stroll in that field of consciousness, and you begin, memories begin to be activated, certain beliefs begin to get activated. You in a way, you sort of take on some of that consciousness, but what's actually happening is that consciousness is being activated in your DNA. The qualities of the Sirius star system is beginning to get activated in your DNA. The qualities that Kuan Yin represents are being activated in your DNA. Remember that in our body, in our biology, we have our biological carbon-based DNA, but we also have beautifully wrapped around our carbon-based DNA, we have our spiritual DNA, or what Kaya Robb calls in her book, the Sophia Code, she calls it your divine genome. So a lot of those, or most of those divine that divine DNA, the codes, the light codes, are actually dormant. Okay, so I'm going to say this one more time to be clear. You have your biological DNA, you have your biological genes, your carbon-based DNA in your cells, in your body, and you also wrapped around your carbon-based DNA, you have what's called your divine genome, or you have your spiritual DNA. And that spiritual DNA holds light codes, and those light codes hold all the divine qualities of the cosmos, infinite creativity, birthing realities, innocence, abundance, like really just an infinite number of qualities, of divine qualities. They're right there in your subatomic universe. They're right there in your biology. They're nestled up. These codes are nestled up. This spiritual DNA, the divine genome, is nestled up right against your biological DNA, your carbon-based DNA. It's just that those codes, so many of those codes, most of those codes are turned off. They're dormant. They're latent. Okay. So what happens is that when you receive a transmission from me, and you merge with that consciousness and you go for a stroll in that consciousness, so to speak, some of those codes begin to turn on. They get activated. And then what happens is that the qualities, some of the qualities of that which you are merging with, in this case Sirius, begin to take hold in your neurobiology, and they start running your human awareness. You start, in the case of Sirius, you start having your neurological highways be filled with Sirian light. So you're operating from more super highways of higher consciousness. So you're living off of a more exalted motherboard of consciousness, so to speak, a higher divine blueprint of consciousness within your subatomic universe, your DNA. So that's the merging of consciousness that takes place when you receive a transmission from me, whatever it is I'm transmitting. So in this case, it's Sirius. And I'm, like I said, I'm really excited to transmit Sirius. I've never transmitted or called upon a particular star system or star. And I want to give you a little bit of background information. Some of it is astronomical, and some of it is mystical. Most of it's going to be mystical. Astronomically, Sirius is the brightest star in the universe right now. If you look up, or sorry, not in the universe, in the night sky. Sirius is the brightest star in the night sky. If you look in the night sky, you're going to see this really unusually bright star. Where I'm in Vancouver in Western Canada, it's south facing, and it has this really a bluish sort of hue to it. It's a really beautiful, potent star. And this light is coming primarily from Sirius A. So it's considered a binary star system. So you have Sirius A and Sirius B. Sirius A is what emanates most of this light. Sirius B at this point is now just a white dwarf. I don't want to say just, but it is a white dwarf. It's a very dense star, but is not nearly as bright as Sirius A. Sirius B went through its own transformation. It became a red giant, and then it transformed into a white dwarf. And the white dwarf is very dense. It's a very heavy star. And so, but the luminescent quality is primarily coming from Sirius A. Sirius A is going to continue being the brightest star in the night sky for another 210,000 years until Vega takes over, and then Vega will become the brightest star in the night sky, not the cosmos. So in our night sky. But there is also the mystery of Sirius C, and if you Google Sirius C, you're gonna hear different things. Is there a Sirius C? Is there not a Sirius C? Is it, how much is myth? How much is real? So here's what comes to me. This is what I feel is true in my own experience of communing with Sirius and communing with the Ascended Masters I work with. Sirius C graduated, you could say. It graduated. It moved to a higher dimension of consciousness. It ascended. Now we have to remember that I should say it this way. Souls are evolving. You know that. They're evolving, they're ascending. Planets are evolving and ascending. But so too are stars. They're evolving and ascending. And so Sirius C reached a point where it was ready to ascend to another dimension of consciousness. Now, this doesn't mean that Sirius C has completely departed from its Sirius family. It actually still is within the consciousness, the collective consciousness of Sirius. It's still affecting it. It's still a part of it. It's just doing it from a higher plane. Just like we have our own higher selves that are affecting us, even though we're living in multiple dimensions at once. We have different levels of ethereal bodies. We have our astral body, causal body. We have these different levels and different dimensions, and they're all interfacing, and they're all part of one unified consciousness for us. It's the same with Sirius. That's just the way to look at it. It just has a more evolved aspect of itself. So Sirius is really interesting in that sense. In the sense that you have these three stars, and one is super bright and is the brightest star in the night sky. Another one is very dim and very heavy, and is a white dwarf, like I said. And then you have a third one that's in another dimension. So you have these, it's not like they're all kind of hanging out together and they're all similar and they're very different. They're very different. But what I want you to know is that as a collective, Sirius is very interested in supporting many planets in their ascension journey. And with Mother Earth, with Gaia in particular, Sirius has played like an elder role, like a very keen caretaker that wants to oversee and look after Gaia's journey of evolution. And so it has this sort of overlighting, overseeing, guiding presence for Gaia. And I just love that. So in the same way a disciple will have a guru and a student will have a mentor, Mother Earth has that relationship with Sirius. It looks up to Sirius as it looks up as a shining example, because Sirius is a very evolved star system. And some people like to classify it within a particular dimension. People say, oh yeah, Sirius is 6th dimension, which is common. Pleiades is 5th dimension. And then someone else might say a range. They may say Sirius is 4 to 6. What I invite you to do is to instead be open to all possibilities. Be open to all possibilities about what dimension it's in. So it has had this role since the beginning of time with Mother Earth as an overseeing, guiding presence. And I'm going to say more about that in a second. I also want to take a step back and say that Sirius is also a really important convening or congregational center for advanced souls, for overseers, for many exalted beings, elders. They come together on Sirius to talk about cosmic issues. They go there to address or talk about interstellar or interplanetary diplomatic agendas. So it is a place, kind of like we have our capital cities. We have Ottawa in Canada, or Washington, DC, or we may have in BC we have Victoria, the capital of our province here. We have these areas, these sort of parliamentary centers. And Sirius is like that. Sirius is like that in the cosmos. It's a really important place where very wise, elevated souls come together from different places in the cosmos to talk. I'm using very simple language, to get together and have a conversation and to go over some larger cosmic issues. Now, I can't tell you what those are, but I can tell you this is a really important congregation center. It's also, Sirius is a higher center of learning. When I was talking to, I think it was when I was convening with Sirius, it might have been one of the Ascended Masters, they called it, it's like a high school. It's a higher center of learning. And what that means is that it's a very coveted location to advance your learning to another level. So you have to reach a certain level of advancement in your soul journey, in your evolutionary journey as a soul, to go and learn there. So it is a high school for learning, for evolving. Back to my original point of Sirius being an overseer, a guiding presence for Mother Earth. What that means is that Sirius, through various stargates, has its crystalline ascension codes coded in Mother Earth. So this is the language, if you want to say it that, the language, the light language, or the light wisdom, the ancient wisdom of Sirius coming down into Mother Earth and being coded in Mother Earth's Akashic Record Library, also known as her mind, Mother Earth's mind. This ancient wisdom, the Ascension teachings of Sirius are coded in Mother Earth's Akashic Record Library through portals. So think of the Akashic Record Library as the mind of Mother Earth. It's her mind. And we have our own mind, obviously. And in her mind, we have information. We have information that's stored. We have memories. We have wisdom. We have our own consciousness. And within our own consciousness, we have information. This information comes through many lifetimes. It comes from what we've learned in this lifetime, what we've experienced. So Mother Earth has her own library of information. That library is not a particular location. It's not like there's a massive crystal in the earth and that's where it is located. No, generally speaking, you could say that the Akashic Record Library is in the earth. It's stored. The information, the crystalline ascension teachings, wisdom from Sirius and other star systems are coded in the mind, and that mind is essentially in the land. It's in the land. It's in the bones, which are the stones. The stones, the bones, right? We can think of the stones of the earth as the bones of the earth, but it's also the crystals in the earth. It's the earth itself. It's not a particular location, but that information is stored. So if we look at the word store, it's related to the word story. And if you consider indigenous cultures around the world, certain ones would associate different areas of their land to have certain stories. So if you walk by this rock, there's a story there. There's an ancient story, and you can retrieve that story. You can retrieve the wisdom from the land, the story that's stored in that particular rock or in this particular tree. You are communing with that rock, you're communing with that bush, you're communing with that tree, and you are retrieving sacred knowledge that's stored in there, the stories that are stored. So if you look in the Amazon, for instance, there's hundreds of thousands of plants. Now, how does a medicine person know which plants do what? How do we know that? How do they know which plants work with this particular illness or support this particular kind of ceremonial work? So it is a communion, it's a merging with the consciousness of that particular landform, that particular biology of Mother Earth. It's a communion with that, and in that communion, you retrieve information. So this information, so when we look at Mother Earth, you're seeing stories that are woven into the land. There's stories that are woven into the land. They're stored. So an elder in a community, in an indigenous community, the elder plays that role. The elder is the keeper. The elder is the storyteller. The elder stores the ancient wisdom. That's the purpose of the elder. And the elder, that's one key purpose. And the elder passes the stories down. Right? So the elder is that keeper, the wisdom keeper, the story keeper, and the storyteller. So these stars, via certain star gates or portals, encode Mother Earth and transfer the ancient, the wisdom, the crystalline ascension codes, the crystalline ascension teachings into Earth. So these stargates, these stargate portals are bringing down this wisdom into Mother Earth, these codes, and they're coding the Earth. I'm kind of going a little all over the place here, but I'm hoping you get what I'm saying. So what are examples of these portals? Well, portals can be specific vortices, like Denali, formerly known as Mount McKinley, the highest, the tallest mountain, I'm pretty sure, in North America and in Alaska. There's also Mount Shasta. There's these different sacred sites, Sedona, different sacred sites around the world, which are key vortices that anchor this information, this ascension information. There's also obviously advanced beings. There's advanced beings, avatars that anchor this information and transmit these codes. One of those, a great example, is Hathor from the ancient Egypt, who was a Stargate priestess, and she was a teacher of Syrian wisdom. And she would commune regularly with Sirius, and in fact, she would travel to Sirius in her lifetime on Earth, and she'd gather elders from Sirius, and she'd bring them down to Earth. So she was very much about anchoring the Syrian wisdom on Earth. We can also look at spirit animals. In particular, we can look at the whales and the dolphins. Whales and dolphins are really important ambassadors, really powerful ambassadors of Sirius, anchoring that wisdom, transmitting that wisdom, coding the Ascension wisdom, the Ascension teachings of Sirius in the Akashic Record Library of Mother Earth, in Mother Earth's mind, storing that information. Now, this information is there. This information is in the library. And if you're aware enough, if you're awakened enough, you can access that library. You can go in the library, you can take out a book, you can read a story. You can go in at any time and get that information if you're open enough, if you're conscious enough. But there are certain times when the library doors open wide. When the library doors open wide and the information is more widely accessible. And the reason why that the doors would open wide and the information would enter the collective consciousness more fully is because it's time that we enter a new evolutionary stage. And so this opening of the library doors, this opening of the vaults, so to speak, what this does is that it instigates or catalyzes an evolutionary shift that Mother Earth and her inhabitants, human beings specifically, are ready for. So it's triggering a push, and that's where we are now. We are now ready for that shift. And so we see an awakening, a bubbling in the consciousness. We see more and more people talking about being star seeds. They're talking about Arcturus. There's so much interest in what your star origins are. People are talking about ancient civilization. They want to know about ancient Egypt and ancient Greece. They want to know about the Mayans and the Aztecs. There's such a curiosity about our origin stories. And of course, there's all the shamanic work going on in the planet as well, which is helping us to connect to our divine inheritance, our connection to Mother Earth, our connection to the land. So this is a huge time of awakening right now, and a big reason is because the library is opening up more fully. It's more available to people. It's affecting the consciousness. It's affecting the crystalline grid, the Christ grid of the planet. We are waking up as a species very quickly. So when you receive a transmission via myself, so I'm a Stargate, and that Sirius, just like with whoever I'm transmitting, Kuan Yin, could be the whale, whatever, it comes through me and it gets broadcasted to the people around the world who are in the ceremony. So when you receive that transmission, like I said, you are communing with the ancient Ascension wisdom, the ancient overlighting presence, like wow, of Sirius. It's amazing. It's amazing to do that. And so what happens, just to repeat what I said earlier on, is that you are fusing with that consciousness. You are having light codes that are associated with Sirius activated in your DNA, and you have more Sirian consciousness, you could say, running through your neurobiology. You're merging more fully with the Sirian star system. You're merging with its consciousness, And to repeat what I said in an earlier video regarding Green Tara, you are, in essence, the stars, whoever I'm transmitting, whatever stars I'm transmitting to you, the stars are increasingly becoming the neurons of your mind. So I'm going to say this in a different way. I said this to you before in another video. Stars are the neurons of the cosmic mind. Stars are the neurons of the cosmic mind. That alone is awesome information. Stars are the neurons of the cosmic mind. So the more you merge, commune with these stars, the more that their consciousness is running your neurobiology, the more your human mind is merging with the cosmic mind, the more your human neurons are merging with the stars, the cosmic neurons, and the more you are living and operating from universal or cosmic consciousness. So in this ceremony, what you're doing is you're increasingly, with the help of Sirius, running from its consciousness, not running away. you are being infused with that consciousness. You're living more fully with that consciousness running in your neurobiology, in your nervous system, and that is a sacred experience. You're accessing that ancient wisdom, those ancient Ascension teachings. It is literally shifting your consciousness, and as you have different neurological pathways now running through your system of Sirian. Now that you have new Sirian light highways running through your system, imagine what's possible then, what new pathways are going to open up for you in your life. How does this translate in terms of the pathways that reveal themselves to you or that you choose in your outer world when you start to have more of these light highways light up in your neurobiology? So the possibilities for healing and empowerment and ascension really are endless. They are endless. And I just want to say, from a very practical perspective of healing and healing chronic pain, healing anxiety, healing depression, healing anything, psoriasis, a sore knee, neck pain, sleep issues, whatever it may be. I've done this long enough healing people with starlight. I know what's possible, the miraculous possibilities that are there, that are there for people who are open to starlight. So this ceremony is this Tuesday, May 24th, 1 p.m. Pacific. A reminder that if you cannot attend on Zoom, you can still receive the transmission so long as you register. The details are going to be in the description, and I would love to see you there. And it's a real honor. It's an honor for me just to talk about this with you. It really is. It really is for me to represent Sirius. Please, I would love for you to share this video, subscribe, like, comment, and if you have any questions, let me know. Let me know. Otherwise, thank you so much for being here with me, and I will see you when I see you. Take care.